Ever felt your heart do a little flutter or maybe skip a beat or race like crazy for what feels like no reason at all? Well, that's called an arrhythmia. Today, we're going to pop the hood and take a look at the heart's incredible electrical system. We'll explore the amazing tools doctors have to get everything back in rhythm. So, let's dive in. So let's start with a big question. What is it exactly that tells your heart to beat? I mean, it does it over 100,000 times a day without you even thinking about it. Is it your brain sending a signal, some kind of reflex? Well, the answer is actually a lot closer to home. Get this, the heart controls itself. It's got its own built-in dedicated electrical wiring. See here? An impulse starts way up in the sinus node, kind of like a spark plug. It flows through these pathways to the AV node, that's the atrioventricular node, and then zips down to the big pumping chambers, telling them to squeeze. It's a perfect, self-contained circuit. Now, when this system is working just right, it's like a beautiful symphony. But what happens when the conductor loses the beat? That's exactly what an arrhythmia is. It's any kind of disruption to that smooth electrical flow. Maybe a signal fires from the wrong place, or it travels down the wrong path. So you can see, to fix the rhythm, doctors have to fix the electricity. But how on earth do you do that? Well, the secret lies in hacking the electrical code of the heart cells themselves. And this code has a name, the action potential. Okay, so every single cell in your heart's wiring follows this fundamental electrical code to fire off and then contract. So if you can change that code, you can change the heartbeat. This right here, this is the primary target for pretty much all the antiarrhythmic medications out there. And this graph, this is our roadmap for that code. That super sharp upward spike, that's the moment the cell fires. And that long tail that follows is the cell resetting itself, getting ready for the next beat. I know it looks a little complicated, but it really just boils down to a few key steps. Let's break it down. First up, phase 0. Sodium ions flood into the cell, creating that initial powerful spark. Then you've got phase 2, where calcium ions enter. This holds the cell in a contracted state. That's the squeeze. And finally, phase 3. Potassium ions rush out, which lets the cell reset. So think about it. Spark, squeeze, reset. That's the rhythm of life, happening at a microscopic level. So how does this actually work inside a cell? Well, those ions we talked about, sodium, calcium, potassium, they don't just wander around. They have to pass through specific channels, or you can think of them as tiny little gates. The whole science of antiarrhythmic medicine is really about designing drugs that can selectively block these gates to, say, slow down the spark or stretch out the reset time. And here's where it gets even more clever. Not all heart cells have the exact same electrical code. The pacemaker cells that start the beat, shown here in red, have a totally different action potential shape than the muscle cells that do the heavy lifting, shown in green. You see how the red line for the pacemaker cell just naturally drifts upward on its own? That's what creates the spontaneous beat. This is amazing because it lets doctors use drugs that target only the specific cells that are causing the problem. So with this incredible understanding of the heart's electrical code, doctors have built out a whole playbook of drugs to treat these arrhythmias. Let's open it up and take a look. The drugs are grouped into 4 main classes, and it's all based on which gate they block. You've got Class 1 drugs, which block the sodium channels to slow down that initial spark. Class 2 drugs, beta blockers, are a bit different. They kind of just cool down the whole system. Class 3 drugs block potassium channels, which delays the reset, and Class 4 drugs block calcium channels, mostly affecting that AV node we talked about. And here, you can actually see what each class does to that electrical signal. Look at how Class I drugs blunt that initial sharp spark. And see how Class 3 drugs stretch out the reset phase? That gives the heart more time between beats. Meanwhile, Classes 2 and 4 are more focused on slowing down those pacemaker cells that set the overall pace. It's basically targeted electrical engineering on a cellular level. But, and this is a really big but, there's a serious catch. The heart's electrical system is so incredibly fine-tuned. Hacking it can be really dangerous. The famous CAST trial was a huge wake-up call for everyone. It showed that a drug could successfully stop an arrhythmia, but, and this is wild, it could actually increase the risk of sudden death. So the takeaway is crucial. These drugs are used very, very carefully, and only when absolutely necessary. Okay, so let's put this into practice. Imagine you've got a patient with something called ventricular tachycardia, a super fast, dangerous rhythm that started right after a heart attack. Their damaged heart muscle is just firing off these chaotic, rapid signals. What drug class are you going to reach for?
This is what that dangerous rhythm actually looks like on an ECG. It's wide, it's fast, and it's really unstable. The problem here is coming directly from those damaged heart muscle cells, the myocytes. So the answer is to use a drug like lidocaine, which is a class I drug, or amiodarone, a class 3 drug. Why? Because both of them are designed to specifically calm down those overactive muscle cells by blocking either their sodium or potassium channels without messing with the healthy pacemaker cells that are trying to do their job. And then you've got the special agent called adenosine. For certain arrhythmias that are caused by a kind of short circuit in the AV node, adenosine is like a chemical reboot button. It literally, for a split second, stops the heart's conduction system, which gives the normal rhythm a chance to take back control. It's pretty dramatic to see, but unbelievably effective. But what happens if drugs just aren't enough? Or maybe they're not the right choice for a patient? Well, that's when doctors bring in the heavy machinery and also take a hard look at the very foundations of heart health.
So, when drugs aren't the answer, doctors turn to devices. For the most dangerous chaotic rhythms, defibrillation delivers a powerful electrical shock to reset the entire heart all at once. If the heart is beating too slow, a tiny implanted pacemaker can act as an artificial timekeeper, giving it the electrical pulses it's missing. And for very specific problems, a procedure called ablation can find the exact cluster of misfiring cells and just zap them, permanently fixing that short circuit.
But you know what? Before we even talk about all the drugs and devices, the first and honestly most important line of defense is your lifestyle. So much of managing arrhythmias comes right down to the basics: keeping a healthy weight, getting regular exercise, quitting smoking, and getting control of other things like high blood pressure and sleep apnea. These steps aren't just helpful. A lot of times, they can be way more powerful than any pill or procedure.
When you really stop and think about it, it is just staggering. Over 100,000 beats a day, every single day of your life, and it's all orchestrated by the silent, invisible movement of tiny sodium, potassium, and calcium ions. It's just a reminder of the incredible microscopic symphony that's playing out inside every single one of us with every single heartbeat.